That's right. It's me and you. Hey, we're live on the Front Door Show, and today is my birthday. And ladies and gentlemen, if you know something about my birthday, I usually have it at Alhambra Palace. I always bring artists to perform, and I have with me Tito Puente Jr. Oh my God! You know what a pleasure. Yeah.
Mira, que dice que happy birthday to you. DJ Angelo Piero. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, nice.
Happy
Hey,
birthday, brother.
I really love. Thank you. I really love what you posted yesterday with your about your dad. That was cool. About that was cool about him serving and that was lovely. That was lovely.
Memorial Day. My father served in the U.S. Navy. He's fought in 9 battles, and it was, I wanted to honor him yesterday. Of course, it's always close to Memorial Day, and then his passing is this weekend too. It's been 20 years, so I like it's a whole week of Tito Puente, tribute. So.
Right. And my dad, he was looking at a picture, he goes, wow, really good looking man. How old was he? How old was he when in that picture that you
I'm going to say he was 19 years old, 20. So he went for the war. So he was drafted into the war. So 18, 19, 20, 21, I think 22 he got out, or 21 he got out, and he had a GI Bill and then went to Juilliard School of Music. But yeah, he served, I think 3 terms, so from 1941 to 1943, so it was 2.5 years, 3 years. But it was hard battle, man.
Oh, especially because it was the Pacifics. I remember that was the whole thing. That was crazy, man. And
yeah.
I wasn't sure. I says, wait, he was in the Navy. And did they have a big part? And my dad was like, yeah, he had a huge part in the war, because that's what that was the front line, basically.
Front line, yeah, he was right there. It was incredible. But he got a great. I'm glad that he served and he's made it, and it helped him. It helped him get that GI Bill to study at Juilliard School of Music, and then thus become a great creator. And here's some trivia for you, Angelo. Tito Puente wrote the song "Ran Can Can" in 1943. And I believe in 1949 it was released. So he wrote it on the ship, but then didn't release it until like 5-6 years later.
Wow.
That's wild. So he was sending a lot of material to Machito. Dad played with Machito's band with the Afro-Cuban All-Stars in 1939, 1940, and then 41. So he must have been 16, 17 years old then. And he was the timbal player, and then he got drafted. So he went to war, and then he was the most sought after arranger with music, writing music that Machito sent for my father to write music. So my dad wrote music on the ship that he kept the Ran Can Can. That could have been Machito's song, who knows? But he ended up keeping it for himself and then released it in 1949. So a little trivia, pretty cool.
That's amazing. I don't think a lot of people knew this one. So this is cool that you gave the insight on this.
Yeah.
So Tito, me and you've known each other for quite a long time. I mean, a long time. We've known each other and I tell the story about I booked you just right before 9/11. I remember that you were supposed to play for me. And I had called you and I said, after 9/11 happened, and I think you were supposed to perform in Chicago here like 3 weeks after that. And I was like, man, we can't do this because everything was shut down. And I remember you were like, no, don't worry about it. I got your deposit. When you're ready, blah, 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 and I think it was almost 9 years later, then we finally said, okay, let's get you together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But before that, me and you, we used to always hang out during the Winter Music Conference. This was back in the days and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you were doing a lot of the Latin house aspect of it, right? You were doing all that, the dance music.
Absolutely, man. House music all the way.
So growing up, obviously, I hear you tell me stories about you always around with, your dad and Celia and stuff like that. But what gravitated you to the dance music per se? What was that about for you?
Bueno, yo nací en Nueva York, so I was born in New York City, and just growing up in New York, and being around my father at that time, Angela, I think you might have remembered too. And Marcelino could, I don't know if he's watching or not, but Marcelino, our friend Marcelino Ramos, could probably vouch for it because he was a promoter at clubs in New York City in the 90s. So from like 1990 all the way to 99, that 10-year block, nightclubs in New York were mixing salsa bands with dance music and freestyle artists and house music. So they were mixing the two at the time. And you would go see Tito Puente, he would perform, whether it be Copacabana or El Morocco or some club in New York City. And then in between the bands, they would have DJ Little Louis Vega perform, and La India would be singing, or they would have a freestyle act, whether it be George Lamont or TKA. So if you look at back then we had flyers. So we used to hand out flyers in the street, and you would see
wait. Pluggers. They were pluggers. They weren't called flyers.
Yeah. Oh, okay, pluggers. All right, you want to call it that? All right. Yeah. So, well, it was this cardboard piece of paper that had promotion on it. So they would have Tito Puente, have my father, and then special invited guest TKA, or some dance music group or something like that, or house music or something like that, and it would be so cool. So back then they mixed it a lot. So I guess there was called Latin hip hop, and they just mixed it all together and messed it up. So that was really how I got into it, because I would go with my father to go set up his drums everywhere around the tri-state area, and then I would meet all these great dance groups. Man, it was really something to see. Man, it was cool.
And then you technically were doing Latin house stuff. That's what you were into, because you're still doing your timbales, but you were doing all the producing of house music and stuff like that, correct?
Right. Yes, I was doing Latin house music at that time. You had the likes of Proyecto Uno, Sandy Papo, Los Ilegales. These were very merengue house dance music. I was also into all the cumbia stuff, and like AB Quintanilla, Cumbia Kings. They were hot. This was all in the mid 90s, 1994, 95, 96. And I was into the Latin house music so much that I redid one of my father's songs, Oye Como Va, and it ended up reaching the top 10 here in the United States, went number 1 in Canada and about 4 different other countries across the river there, and or across the ocean, in Denmark and in Sweden and in the UK. And it became a real phenomenon. Like, it's crazy how that song went from 1971 with Abraxas with the Carlos Santana version, and then I did a Latin house version 30 some odd years later, and it became a number 1 hit again. And the song, it just reinvents itself all the time. But that's how I kicked off the whole Latin house thing, and that song just did it for me. It was cool.
Yeah, well, and I remember you performing over in when we were at South Beach. I remember you always performing there. Fun shows, really fun shows. I remember.
Yeah, there were a lot. I think I look like this. Look, I got a picture. Mira, old school. Mira. That's our old. That's my old look. I had the long hair and all that. Remember?
And the leather pants.
The leather pants, man. Yeah, man. I was kicking it. That was really the style back then. But I remember, Angela, you came down for the Winter Music Conference, and you were, of course, part of the whole DJ clique, the Chicago DJs, Tim Spin and Schumer, Richard Humpty Vision, man. Who were the other DJs? There was some Georgie Porgy, all those guys. All you guys used to come down from Chicago. We would all meet up for a whole week, and just you guys would bring and check out the new latest Latin house music at that time.
Right.
That was how we all connected.
Well, and that was one of the things, because I knew Marcelino had booked you here a couple of times doing the Latin house, and obviously for the Puerto Rican Fest and stuff like that. You came for a lot of the festivals and stuff like that. And I had gravitated to the Latin music, obviously, and I started doing, okay, I want to do more of the salsa events per se. When did you start going into mostly salsa? When did you okay, I mean, Latin house to your salsa? By what year did you start doing that?
That would have been probably right after I started doing salsa on my second album. It was called Siéntelo. Do I have a copy here? Let me see. I don't have a copy. I think it's somewhere else. But I did a second album called Siéntelo, and it was on La Casa Records out of Newark, New Jersey. And I started singing and playing a little bit with the encouragement of my father and encouragement of the guys that I was working with too, and the producers. And they were like, "Hey man, why don't you play a little timbales?" Because I was doing more Latin house and Latin rap music. So I wanted to get off the mic a little bit and do the percussion thing, since I was professionally taught as playing drums first. That's how I played. I like rock music. You guys know that. I love heavy metal and rock music. So I was a drummer first, and that's how I started. Then I crossed over into playing timbales, which is a different timing. It's more clave and percussion and congas and timbal, and it has a Latin feel to it. So I think it was probably around 1997, 98 is when I wanted to, after the Oye Como Va came out, I said, let me start playing the drums live a little bit. Of course, being the son of Tito Puente, it was very intimidating for me, simply because my father was still,
I bet.
Yeah, my father was still alive at that point, and he was a worldwide phenomenon, and at the age of, I think he was 76 years old at that time. And, I wanted to play, but I said, man, my father's really the king of Latin music. Yo no soy príncipe. I'm not the prince. So I didn't want to mess with that, because he's so good, and it was very intimidating for me. So I only played a little bit, and then I started rapping. And then I think I really got into it more after he passed in 2000. So that was about 2 or 3 years later. And I really wanted to hone in on my skills in playing drums. So.
Right. And play for tribute to him, and obviously.
Absolutely. And which I continue to today, still tribute my father, as I always do.
Right. So going into, and I'm glad you said that about your dad, about the whole, intimidation aspect of it, because, that's a big shoes to fill, per se.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. And Angelo, we had conversations too, man. Many nights we hang out in the club afterwards, have some drinks, and I would tell you, it was tough for me. It was a little tough for me in the 90s being Latin house music, and then my father would tell you, I think he saw an interview, I think he told you maybe once or twice, he said, yeah, my son's doing house music, and he would say, whose house? My father didn't really care for house music. And that's so ironic, because he ended up working with the likes of Mark Anthony, La India, Little Louis Vega, Teddy Dope Gonzalez, all the great Latin house, icons and legends, and he ended up working with all of them in his future.
No, but look at the track River Ocean, Love and Happiness, with his timbales and stuff like that, how it gravitated to house music with the congas and stuff like that. That became one of the still a theme song for house heads right now, where La India, and your father's percussions and stuff like that. As soon as and I gotta tell you, someone who played house music, you play that record and you hear that conga track.
Yeah,
you know right away. There was no.
You knew right away.
There was no. And then obviously La India with her little her rhythmic singing and stuff like that. It was like and it's just. And I tell people all the time, I says, listen, you'd be surprised. Even Mark Anthony was right the rhythm and stuff like that. With all the I'm like, you'd be surprised how many salsa artists started in this industry as a house DJ or a house, producing stuff like that. And you hear the stories about how Mark Anthony became what he became. He's like,
of course,
inspiration, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you had a big advantage.
Sure.
What I'm saying is that, so one of the things that I remember, I guess the question was, somebody asked me, what's your favorite place that you play at? What was it that you ever played at? What was it would be your favorite place? Somebody asked me a question from Chicago.
Que popular. Wow. I mean, Chicago's awesome, Angelo. I love playing out there, and I've did some really cool places. I think one of the more really amazing places that I ever performed was with my father and La India. We played a place called Ravinia, which I believe is still there, and it's such a beautiful outdoor amphitheater out in Chicago. And that was a very beautiful. They did a summer concert series where they had jazz music, And of course, all the House of Blues, the House of Blues in Chicago, the one in, of course, the one in Los Angeles. Those are great venues too. I mean, I played all around the world pretty much ever since my dad passed away 20 years ago. So there's so many great places that are more that I can really look back at it and say, wow, that was phenomenal. But I think the places where I performed with him were the ones that were really special to me because I shared the stage with my father. And that was really something special. We did something up in Toronto, Canada at the Sky Dome, about 80,000 people. La India was there and all the salsa heads. And, you know, we go to South America too. And it was just incredible. You know, it wasn't really the venues that had the lot of people that were in it. Or it could have been a very small venue because we did small places all over New York City, you know, small clubs, Sequoia, with Eddie Batiz and Le Poulet, really small, tiny clubs that fit maybe 200 or 300. But I think it was the stages where I shared it with my father together are the ones that I remember the most. It was cool.
Well, that's beautiful. Man. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So then, when you came to Chicago, when I got you in the first, now this is our 7th year in a row, right? Is that correct?
I would think so. But I remember I went there before. I think we met through a very good friend of ours, and that was my brother Dino Latino. I think Dino had a club, right? Then he had the club on the west side.
It was
Chromium. Yep. Right. So Dino, I was on his record, and then he was on my record, and that was 1998. And then that's where I kind of got the whole Chicago vibe. And then we were hanging out with Dino, me, you, Dino, Marcelino, all of us were hanging out at Winter Music Conference that one summer or that one spring, that March. And that's when it really kicked off our relationship.
Right. We're just because I think that was where I told you about Alhambra Palace, and I told you what's happening as far as a Tuesday, you know, and I think that works also well for Tuesday for a lot of artists that I book, you know, just because of the fact that, you know, it doesn't interrupt your Friday and Saturday, because on Friday and Saturday you guys are booked a lot. You know, so Tuesday comes around. Guess what? You fly in on Monday, and you're out Tuesday, and you're gone on Wednesday.
It's so perfect. Your Tuesday nights are so fantastic, and Fantastic does a great job doing those Tuesday nights. And I love that you do it on Tuesdays. I was asking that too, like, why are you doing it on Tuesday? And you like, Tito, don't worry, man, this place is going to be packed. And it was. I said, wow, look how many people here on a Tuesday night. And it's great, and you do it nice and early too, before my bedtime.
Well, no, hey. I just to let you know, and anybody can tell you that you have the record on a Tuesday night for the amount of people that came to see a show. You have the standing record.
Wow.
Yeah, you have.
Oh man, I'm honored. So I accept this honor and this award. Wow, really? I did not know that.
Yeah. I think it was like 725 people came to the event and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And what I found amazing, and this is just in general, seeing the crowd that comes in, because there were people that I've never seen before, and they said, "Oh, I'm coming because of the fact that I've seen his dad all the time, and I've seen what you call it, and I want to hear what he does honor his dad." I remember I think it was the first time you played, but then the second time you came, I remember a couple of people came up to me and they go, "Wow, he got really good at this. He's getting better, you know,
getting better every year."
because obviously, I mean, again, probably because of the intimidation factor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then as you get better and better and stuff like that, and I guess that's going to be my next question to you is that, and you mentioned about your dad with Machito, because that was the Afro-Cuban aspect of it. How is that changing in the music industry for you now that the Cuban music is getting bigger and bigger, or should I say more exposed in the sense that it's coming from Cuba now? How's that working with you as far as this music? Do you have an opinion about the Cuban music now?
I adore Cuban music. It's really the epicenter of what's really, to me, the pulse of salsa and Latin jazz music. Chucho Valdez, Bebo Valdez, Iraquere, and Buena Vista Social Club. These orchestras and these musicians are phenomenal, and they really paved the path for most salsa bands that you hear today, including Machito and his Afro-Cuban All-Stars, Arsenio Rodriguez, and the late great Cachao Lopez. Israel Cachao Lopez really created the whole mambo sound that was influenced into my father's music and what he left. My father was really only the first Puerto Rican, or one of the first Puerto Rican band leaders and timbaleros to play Afro-Cuban music. Right. Because it was all other Cuban bands. It was Jose Cubelo. It was a lot of Cuban groups back then. It was only him. And then, of course, he was up against singers like Tito Rodriguez and, of course, Joe Cuba and those cats. Those are more of singers, and they had more baladas and things of that nature. My father was hanging around with the Cuban side of things. And so it was Dizzy Gillespie. So that's where you got all that Afro-Cuban bop music and that Latin jazz sound. But the Cuban music is absolutely phenomenal. There's great stuff. The new timba sound, I love that sound. It's so beautiful. And it's really got a groove to it. And I'm looking forward to working with a lot of, and of course we can't forget about the queen of Latin music, Miss Celia Cruz. My father was instrumental in having that bridge of Afro-Cuban music and a singer from Cuba itself, and bring her to New York, and that sound just all came together with Celia. Just amazing, you know.
Well, and how this comes full circle, Tito. I don't know if I've ever told you. I think I might have told you that I got a phone call from somebody from that played with Arsenio Rodriguez because of my last name Prieto, and I guess there was a band member with the last name Prieto, a Leo Prieto, and he was asking me if I was related. And at the time, before I even did the whole ancestry DNA thing, I was to tell him no and stuff like that. But little did I find out, yeah, I am related to him and stuff like that.
You're related. Wow, that's so cool.
So, and I think he was a trumpet player for the Arsenio Rodriguez. But a lot of people don't realize that Arsenio Rodriguez was blind. You know,
that is true, I believe. Yeah,
he was blind, and the story goes, I don't know if you ever heard this one, that in Cuba, when he was doing the breakdowns, you know, in the songs, he would say "Diablo," and at one point, the church kind of went up to him, you know, because in Cuba, they're very, you know, the church is really influenced. He goes, "Hey, man, you can't use that word Diablo, like, you know, in the breakdown and stuff." So supposedly that's where Arsenio changed it to, instead of Diablo, he went Mambo. And that's where he came up with the word Mambo for the music per se.
Right. That I can believe that story, and that sounds pretty true. I mean, they're talking about 1929, 1930s, in that era. Yep. Arsenio Rodriguez was one of the pioneers of the music, and that section of music where the horns kick in and everybody starts getting into it was the mambo sound. But I believe that sounds that it could be true, that he would say something in that nature, Diablo, but the church has made him change the name.
Right.
Es blasphemy, eso. Oye, chicos, no habla el diablo ahí. But yeah, really cool. That's some cool trivia, man. That's really cool trivia, and it's amazing that you found out that you were somewhat relation.
Well, and that's why I found out about it, because of the Leo Prieto aspect of it and finding out the history. So I was like, and trust me, I found out a lot of stuff with the Prieto family from Cuba. You know, we have a huge family in Cuba, and that was one of the things. Now, here's the other aspect of it. So coming from Cuba to New York, when your dad was around, it wasn't called salsa. Am I correct?
That is correct.
It was called. What were the typical names of that music?
Well, I kind of explained that in the context when I do the shows, because a lot of people use the term salsa, and my father would say salsa tomate goya. Salsa is what you eat your chips in, and that moniker and that name actually was, I'm going to say it was more towards the Fania in the 1970s with Johnny Pacheco and the whole Fania sound. They came up with that term salsa and brought it all together, because it's like a sauce. There's different genres of music. Merengue, they have the Dominican, the Cuban, the Puerto Rican, all those different sounds all came together in a mishmash called salsa. But the original name of this music was, they based it upon the segments of what's in the musical notes and in the arrangements of the sound, And they also based it upon the dancers too, because the Palladium in the 1950s was a very popular club where they had the likes of Machito, Rodriguez, and Puente, and there would be mambo dancers. And the mambo, of course, was the section of the part where Arsenio Rodriguez and, of course, Cachao really invented that whole segment of music, and then that terminology too. Mambo, cha-cha-cha, guanguanco, rumba, son montuno, and you got the danzón, and then you got, those are all different styles of salsa, to the term, but they were also dances too, and that's what people related to back then. So really the name of the music that I play, I try to tell everybody I play mambo, Latin jazz, but if they want to call it salsa, so be it. That's fine.
Well, I tell you, that's the umbrella term. So here's the story I heard about the term salsa.
Okay.
There was a Jewish promoter trying to explain what was happening at Palladium. That's where he spoke Spanish, not like me. I don't speak any Spanish.
Who was it, Larry Harlow?
So he was trying to explain on the radio, and he was going into, the danzón, the son montuno, all this. And he said, it's a salsa of music. And there is where the umbrella term came to play, because they caught on to that word salsa. Right. Explanation because of that.
You could be right. There was a guy back then, and he used to be the host of a lot of those concerts. I think his name was Symphony Sid. He was an old cat,
I think that was it.
It might have been that. He was a radio personality, and I'm not sure if he was Jewish or not, but he could have been. But I know he's Americano. But so he came up with that terminology. That could be right. That of course, that word has been synonymous with Latin dancing music for years, and especially the new generation now, because everybody says, "Hey, you want to go salsa dancing? We go Tuesday night to Alhambra Palace."
Exactly.
Right.
But
Yeah.
So I and the reason why I'm telling you this, because I've told people individually this story, and hearing it from telling you and coming from you, now they're going to be like, okay, Prieto's telling us the truth, per se.
No, man, I already got the stories from my father. I'm not sure if they were all true, but you're hitting them on the mark. And I like the one about Arsenio Rodriguez. He is one of the pioneers and the creators of the sound that you hear today that we call salsa, for sure.
Right. And that's where, when I heard that, I was amazed. I was like, wait a minute, it's like that. And again, the whole thing about the Fania All-Stars and stuff, and not to take away from the Fania All-Stars, trust me, they were there. That was a big, important part of New York.
Right.
Come on, that was the music and stuff like that.
Sure.
How do you like now, in a different tone, because how do you like what's happening now with the European market now, with the salsa market in Italy, Spain, and and France and stuff like that? How's that working with you as far as the music wise?
I'm going to take the route that my father did, and he explained this to me before he passed away. And this is kind of interesting. And I know there's some guys out on, what's up, my man Rolly and Carlos and everybody who's watching right now, just to give you guys a little insight on how Tito Puente thought and why he was so popular too. My father was a businessman, and then he was musician first and then businessman. And he said, how do I get into the European market and without taking away what I do? I play mambo, cha-cha-cha, rumba, salsa market. So what my father did is he changed the name. Instead of saying Tito Puente y su orquesta, he changed it to Tito Puente and his Latin jazz ensemble. So the word jazz, he would play a lot of jazz standard songs, and then he would put a little spices of salsa and mambo into the whole concert. And that's how he kind of opened the doors into the European market, including the Far East and the Orient and Japan and China and all those places. Huge. Because those markets are very, very big in Germany, Sweden, of course, Spain. A lot of the places they were like, okay, was he a salsa band? Because the word salsa was so synonymous to Fania. My father wanted to separate himself from it, so he said, let's call ourselves the Latin Jazz Ensemble, and that's where he took that name, and that brought him over to overseas. It's a very smart business move if you think about it. He was still playing the same stuff that he did in the 50s, and the music was all the same, is that he got in with the promoters over there by adding the word Latin jazz. and it really worked for him, and it works for me as well. When I go out there, I usually call myself Tito Puente Junior Latin Jazz Ensemble, and then the festivals kind of react to that. Instead of saying Tito Puente, sort of get that, which is more typical for Latin American countries, which they appreciate the salsa market way more than, of course, the Far East, the Far East, and of course Europe, where they appreciate jazz a little bit more.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying, because I know the difference from like what they do here in the States as like a Congress and what they do in Europe is a huge difference, man. It's like it's a wow factor, you know. As far they do, and maybe that's also because of the fact that they appreciate the music a little different than they do in the States here, per se.
I think over here in the state, they want to see salsa dancing. Definitely, like for instance, por ejemplo, the Tuesday nights, people want to dance salsa. And I thought when I first went there, I was like, oh, they're going to watch me in concert. Nobody pays attention to the band. They want to hear that great music that we give. And over in Europe, I believe they kind of watch and listen a little bit more, and they appreciate the music in a different way. But you know, I love the crowd in the United States because they're very enthusiastic. You know, and South America, forget about it. I mean, they adore the music of Herrera, Timbal, Tito Puente, Colombia, Peru, Chile, Uruguay, Argentina, the whole, you know, South America, and of course the Caribbean countries too, Central America, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, all those countries, they do big festivals, and you know that. You know, they do big festivals, and they have Puente, and then they'll add other salseros, Tito Nieves, Tito Rojas, and all the big guys. And it was really fun to travel with him and see that. But they appreciate the salsa and the mambo that Dad was doing back then, from the 50s. Over in South America.
So since you mentioned about the South American countries and stuff like that, so we're starting to see this this crossover with the reggaeton market as well. So we're starting to see that, you know, I say Victor Manuel working with Wisin y Yandel and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Are you seeing any of that with you? Or are you seeing anything with the combination of, because I know we had talked back, you know, when I hooked up Wisin y Yandel with R. Kelly, and they did that song together here in Chicago.
Right.
Anything with because you guys, I'm sure you guys are in connection with a lot of the reggaeton artists, and even that music is changing in a different way and stuff like that. Anything
I have some very good friends in the reggaeton market. I love everybody, you know, from Yankee to Wisin Yandel. I know all those cats. My boy Mafio, he lives over here in South Florida. I talk to him a lot. And I'm always game. I'm always open to working with them, doing a little timbal solo with one of their tracks. And I know they always mention my father in a lot of their reggaeton raps, which I love, you know, and they tribute him. But I think since I'm a percussion player and I'm doing music, I'm more of the musician side of it. I like working a lot with different singers and producers. Right now, I'm trying to finish my next album. Hopefully I can get it done. You know, this whole coronavirus and quarantine isn't helping, but I have 7 songs done, and I'm trying to get the last 3 done with my man Marlo. And right now I'm working with really good people and good promoters, good singers, and I'm just excited about. I'm thinking about doing maybe a reggaeton version of one of my father's songs, but most of the tunes I'm doing are from old classic singers that my father worked with. And hopefully the album will come out by the end of the year. And I got my girl Sheila E. hopefully working on this record with me.
Wow, that would be exciting.
You know, so like I like that funk sound that she brings, and she brings that whole percussive, you know. And she's hopefully she'll be part of the whole entire project. Of course, Giovanni Hidalgo, great conga player, amazing conga player. And I got my brother Ronnie. My brother Ronnie Puente is on the album too. So I got my brothers. It'll be a family affair. We're doing some nice Tito Puente classic tunes, good for salsa dancing. And of course, Angela, I got you the exclusive. I'll make sure I get a nice copy for you, and you can share with the dancers in Chi-Town, man.
Absolutely. So, send me the video. Send me the video. You know.
Yeah. And of course, we'll do a reggaeton version too. We'll get one of these cats to come in and do that. I'm excited about that. I love working with all types of artists.
Well, only reason why I mentioned about the reggaeton version, because there's a new generation always coming in, and you know, and I'm always looking at what the new version of the new generation that's coming in, stuff like that. Because I know there's a lot of people that in the younger version, they'll gravitate to the reggaeton market and stuff like that first. And then that's how you get them to discover the classic stuff. And you know, and it's like, no, man, this song was originally this group or that group, you know, we're talking about 1950s, 1960s and stuff like that. So that's why I always look at and you know for a fact that, you know, the 43 years that I've been DJing, I have parents and their children that are part of my event as well, because of the fact that, you know, we've cultivated this market per se, and I'm just talking about Chicago, but I think that's in every city and every place that you want the kids to, you know, it's wholesome music, to be honest with you, when it comes to the kids.
Well,
you know,
you got your ear to the street, and you're a very good DJ when it comes to that stuff. Every time I come to Chicago, I see you on the ones and twos, and you're playing the stuff that's hip and that's what's happening today, and that should be commended. That's good that you're doing that, and you also keep the older crowd from the yesteryear. You keep them going too with the classics, and that's good. Keep it up.
Harv Roman says, hello, Harv Roman from WCYC here in Chicago.
Salud. Saludos para mi gente in Chicago. Te quiero mucho, man. I love Chi-Town, man. I have such a blast there. And, you know, my father performed there so many times, and I know that you went many times to go see him, and I think maybe you even booked him once or twice with Marcelino, you know.
You know wherever. What? I didn't never chance to book him. I think the last time he performed here was, you said the Ravinia, but I know that he's definitely played at the Cubby Bear.
Cubby Bear.
At Cubby Bear, I know, because there's a picture of him in Cubby Bear and stuff like that. And I don't know how long ago if someone knows how long ago that was. And then I think you know, the first time I went to go see him, he was at the amphitheater, if I'm not mistaken. It was a jazz event and I was, at the time, I was probably 29 years old. And one of my coworkers that worked me at Bigsby and Crothers when I was in the men's clothing business says, his name is Vern Miller, older black gentleman. He said, hey man, you got to come out and check out this jazz. Oh yeah, they're dancing on the ceiling. You know, that's
yeah.
And I went there and I was amazed, because culturally it was not what I thought it was going to be. You know, I thought it was going to be just only Latinos, right? No,
right.
White, black, Asian, you name it, it was all across the board. I was like, and I guess that's one of the things that I can honestly say about his music is it crossed many of the borders per se, as far as the music. And I think that's the part that I've always tried to market to, because, for instance, because I don't speak Spanish, okay? But I understand that mentality of, well, I don't speak Spanish, so is there an intimidation factor that I'm going to understand what's going on and stuff like that? And I think once people hear the music, it becomes very inviting and saying, okay, you know what? It's about dancing. It's about hearing the music. You have to understand the words. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
Angelo, for years, I've been, of course, I don't speak Spanish that well either. So I'm right there with you. And everybody knows that as you come to my shows, I speak bilingual. But and let me tell you, I travel around this planet performing my father's music, and everybody, I mean, everybody, especially in countries that don't even know English or Spanish. When I go over to France and to Germany, to Sweden, to Japan, they just love the music and they enjoy it. They know the lyrics. And what you're doing, and as a DJ, it's you're bringing people together, and that's something that's really incredible. When I see these DJs, you know, spinning records that come from all types of different genres, I love that, because you're bilingual and you're bicultural, and your mind is bicultural when you bring all those different sounds together. And I try to do that when I travel. But it's just amazing that how music is a language in itself, and it brings everybody brings everybody on the dance floor.
And perfectly said and stuff like that. You know, so that's what I was going to say. So now that you said you're working on your album, and the COVID's keeping you home. And I know I've seen you online quite a bit. You're online like almost every day.
Well, kind of. My wife says, "Get the hell offline." You can picture Rosalie saying that. Say, what the hell are you doing now? I said, "But no, I'm just trying to keep the fans updated on what's happening."
Right. And and even before the COVID, you were still online talking to fans and stuff like that.
Social media, yeah. Okay, there's no outlet for salsa music, Angelo. You know that it's so hard to find a radio station or something where people could listen to what their favorite artists are doing. So I try to just utilize the platform of social media, whether it be this platform or any other platform, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all of them, to just tell people that, hey, there is salsa bands out there and there's live music. So please, come on out and support it.
Well, so now, where do you think this is going with this? I mean, right now with the COVID and stuff like that, and how do you see you? Because obviously you're not getting booked to do these shows yet. Are you looking at 2021 before you start getting booked again? Is it how is it coming for you as far as
well? I'm glad I'm talking to you because you were one of my gigs this summer, but we got to push it. We're just following, we do our white party every year over at Alhambra Palace, and usually it's in August and September. But cross our fingers. Let's see what happens with the vaccine. I have some concerts that, what's great, Angelo, too, is that nothing, and I got to say that I'm got to be blessed by God himself, and my father's blessing me in some sort of some other alternate universe. He's blessing me because I have not only had one cancellation. Everything else has been postponed. So I like postponements because then it says, okay, it's not canceled. That way people could just get back on track and we can make this happen. And a lot of people understand what the postponement means simply because we're going through a pandemic. But most of the concerts that I have been postponed for later on this year, starting, I think, in September. I have a concert in New Jersey in September that's they're selling tickets. I'm not sure how they're going to place the I guess they have they have to implement social distancing in the theater because I'm playing in un teatro. Right. So they're going to have to place that in there. However, it's kind of tough when you're playing Latin music and people want to dance salsa and they want to dance mambo. So it's going to be a little tricky. I'm not sure how they're going to do it. They probably have to space them off, and people can dance in certain areas. But I'm glad, and I get the opportunity that I could still perform his music. And I'm going to get in the studio because right now they're lifting some of the restrictions here in South Florida. But we'll go with our mask. And what's great about going in the studio is that whether you're a trombone player or a saxophone player or timbal player or any musician, you're going into a separate vocal booth or a musician booth. So you're completely separated from the engineer. They come in a separate door and everything. So it's very easy to work with the musicians at this point. So I'm looking forward to getting back in the studio with that. But in the meantime, I'm just celebrating my father's legacy. It'll be his 20-year anniversary. I'm trying to keep showing new different videos every day and new photos like the one you saw on Memorial Day. Cool stuff of my father, exclusive things that come from the Puente family. And that way people can just remember. And what I'm seeing a lot too, Angela, is a lot of people dancing to Tito Puente music, whether it be on TikTok or one of these other platforms. These people are dancing some great mambo around the world, in Italy and Spain and Japan and China and Australia. They're just dancing to the music of Tito Puente, and I'm so glad to say that the music is really getting out there and everybody's starting to listen to it, simply because it's so hard to go see a live show now. More people are watching their phones and their computers, and they're listening to more Tito Puente music.
I was just going to say, do you think with this lockdown that we are experiencing right now, do you think that also these younger people are discovering Tito Puente, your dad's music, because they're kind of you have a captive audience at this point, so they're going on YouTube and they're like, hey, what is this,
I'm gonna say for sure, everybody wants t-shirts now and download music, and I think that's where it's really at. People like seeing things. I think the sale of his image and his whole catalog is just something to be just to be heard. And a lot of people are downloading his music and watching him on YouTube. I encourage everybody to do that. Listen to a Tito Puente song each and every day, especially when we're in this quarantine at home and on this lockdown. People get very tired, depressed, very, very depressed at home. Man, I wish something could pick me up. The best thing to do is have music, man. And I think Tito Puente music is something that'll make your day go by so much more brighter. I tell everybody each and every day, make sure you pick up a Tito Puente CD. I have hundreds of Tito Puente CDs. Listen to one of them. I promise you guys will feel so much better about your day, and it moves so much quicker too.
Well, how many? So I think I was telling my dad, how many albums did he make?
At this point, remember there was a lot of re-releases as well, and then a lot of compilations, but just his own albums with him starring on them, and then the records that he did with Celia Cruz, and of course other musicians, and a lot of tributes. Benny Moré. He did a lot of records with some superstars, La Lupe as well, La India. So I'm going to say in total right now he's up to 186.
Whoa!
It's a lot of records. It's a big catalog.
I was way off.
Yeah, it's about 186 albums, because in 1990 he had 116. So that was another 10 years of his life. He did 2 albums a year, so that was another 40 records or 50 records. Yeah, it's about 186 at this point. That's not including all the instrumentals and stuff. And he was featured on freestyle records like Clave Rocks and the River Ocean that you mentioned, and all those. I didn't even count those. So those, I can only imagine how many records he's on, but it has to be in the 200 mark. And then you're talking about composition wise, he has about maybe 4,000 or 5,000, maybe even more than that, maybe about 6,000 or 7,000 compositions that he wrote out, by hand. We have it in a vault in New York, so it's got to be a world record. I'm going to give them a call, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Especially for his 20-year anniversary. I mean, come on, that's got to be.
That'd be nice.
That would be very nice. That would be very
nice. Very nice to see that.
So then the other question is, and nobody's asked this question yet, I'm going to ask you, besides Oye Como Va, besides that, if somebody had no clue about Tito Puente at all, what song would you recommend other than Oye Como Va? Would you say, like, this is the one you need to hear? What song would that be?
I'm going to go off the grid a little bit. And, I think everybody's waiting for me to say Ran Can Can, simply because it's such a fantastic up-tempo number. People love dancing mambo and salsa to it. Right. It has it's on the Mambo King soundtrack, and just an up-tempo tune. And you can hear the essence of Tito Puente with the big band sound and the timbal solo. So I would say that tune is one of the popular ones, but I'm going to go to something more obscure. And there's a tune called Contra el Bonche. So check that one out. I know maybe some people are looking online right now, but check out Contra el Bonche by Tito Puente on YouTube, and you're going to hear an amazing timbal solo, and it's really good for dancing too. And that was on an album, I believe, do I have it here? It was from 1965. Wow. And it was an album called Tito Puente, Le Excitantes de Tito Puente, I think it was called. Something like that, Los Éxitos de Tito Puente. But check it out. The song is called Contra el Bonche, and I think you guys will really enjoy that one. That's one I recommend. There's so many. You're talking about 186 albums.
I know that, but I figure coming from you, that would be, and I'm glad you went into the obscure aspect of it, because I mean, Ran Can Can and Oye Como Va, we all know those. Those are the staple, and every concert that they're expecting Ran Can Can, but so do you play that song? Do you play that one for your concerts?
Corte el Bonche, I believe, is going to possibly be on my new album. So that's why I'm kind of pushing it a little. You get it? But you guys will probably, it's Corte el Bonche. I said Contra. Corte el Bonche. But yeah, it's really a swinging number, and I think you guys will enjoy it.
Well, good. We look forward for the new album and stuff like that. We got about 10 minutes left, but we're not gonna by your timing, stuff like that.
Cool.
In Chicago, because you got a lot of people that logged on, and the unfortunate thing is because I can't read everything. Jose Fajardo is online as well, so he's
My
saying hello.
boy Jose Fajardo Jr., man, that's my brother. I call him by his nickname Armandito. He hates it when I call him that.
A-Rod is on here, A-Rod for trumpet player as well.
Yeah, man, A-Rod, man, love him too, man. I gotta give a big shout out to Carlos, man, Silos, man, that's my brother, always backing me up over there in Chicago. And of course, Marcelino Ramos, man, that's our brother. He always comes in and out of our lives. We find him and then he goes away. He comes in and out. But I love Marcelino, wherever you're at, man.
Well, you have a unique, and since you brought up Carlos and you brought up the whole thing about Marcelino, you have a very unique situation, because I think what happens is that you have a relationship with band members in different parts of the United States, per se. So Carlos is your music director, and you kind of handle Midwest, right?
Yes.
Who's your music director in New York? Who's your music director in California and Texas and stuff like that? Who are these guys that you kind of?
I love that you're asking me that question, man, because they do need some love, and I respect them so highly. So when I go to New York, of course, I tried my best to get some of the original members of my father's orchestra to play with us, but most of them, of course, they're all spread out around the United States. So whenever I get a chance, I'll get Senor Pete Miranda and a couple of the other cats, Mitch Froman. These are some guys that work with my father's orchestra for over 30 years. So I try to get them. John Dandy Rodriguez, if he's in New York as well. But I have my buddy Willie Rodriguez, Dominicano. He plays piano and he usually gets the band together. Steve Oquendo. These are all my cats up in New York. I usually work with some younger guys. They're swinging. They're usually readily available too. I don't have to rehearse them, which I love. They love Tito Puente music. They're fans first. And I think that's the key. So when I go to Chicago, of course, I use my boy Carlos Silos, man. He's freaking awesome. I work with him and the whole band over there. They're just really fantastic. If you guys are ever in Chicago, please come out and see me at Alhambra Palace. You guys will hear one of the best orchestras in the Chicago and the Midwest. It's just phenomenal. The guys are really smoking hot, and they work with them for a good 10 years now. So I like that I never have to. I always send the music ahead. They rehearse it. I get in there and they just kick it out. And down here in South Florida, I got my boy Marlo Rosado. He's fantastic. I've been working with Marlo for years, producing my records, and Marlo always brings out some of he brings out the best in me to play more. I hold back a little bit. Marlo really pushes me. Yo, play the timbal solo, get in there. So I work with them. California, have my buddy no longer with us, but I work with Eddie Rios now, which is the conga player for the Johnny Polanco Orchestra. And Johnny Polanco passed away many years ago. He was a very good friend of mine, fantastic trombone player, but I still work with his musicians, Artie Webb, a lot of those great guys in California too. And then I go to Oakland, I got my boy Julius Melendez. So I have, around the United States. And then when I go to South America, I got my guys over there in Puerto Rico. But most of the musicians I work with, Angelo, are fans of Puente, including Carlos. They're fans of Dad. And that to me is the best thing, because I got a musician that loves my father, that worry about them making a mistake. They know the music. Yeah, they take pride. They take pride in playing Tito Puente music. And I think that's what I love about my musical directors everywhere I go.
Right. That's what I was gonna say. And you brought Marlo to Chicago. I think 1 year you brought Marlo.
Yeah.
I remember I met him for the first time, and he was phenomenal, talented guy. Oh my God, talented guy.
Grammy Award winner, man.
Yep. And I know he's came up with a couple songs by himself and stuff like that. I got some of the videos and stuff like that. So I mean, that's I think pretty much you answered a lot of people's questions and my questions as well. I'm glad you gave us some history and stuff like that. And then I really pray that this thing ends quickly, because we can get back on track. And then, because we had said August 22nd, I think was our date. August 22nd.
I believe so.
This will be August.
Yeah. Is this our 8th annual, 7th, 6th? Where are we?
I think this would have been 8.
Our 8th annual.
Yeah.
Our 8th annual white party, all white party.
Yeah, that was amazing that, I remember, the last person I brought in concert here was Johnny Vasquez. I don't know if you remember that, if you heard about that. I brought Johnny Vasquez, and Johnny Vasquez had a conversation about you.
Yeah, I love Johnny, man. It's my brother.
Yeah, Johnny.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I never talked to Johnny before until that day.
Really?
I never talked to Johnny before, because you know who talked to him was Luis Rolling Rivera, is the one who used to see him over at in the New York.
Right.
Choco during the
Choco.
Right. And I never talked to him. And so when Johnny came to Chicago, and I worked out a deal that he was going to play for Alhambra, and he was going to play at the Salsa Congress. That was kind of the setup.
Right, right.
He agreed to it, and it was great and stuff like that. And Rosita and Saladin, they agreed to it and stuff. But our conversation we had was, I remember the day, that Thursday, okay, so he played for me on that Tuesday, but I never, because I was so busy, I never got a chance to talk to him. He performed, hey, hello, blah, 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 and then we're out the door, right? You know, he's out the door. But Thursday, I finally get to talk to him, and we're sitting down, and I think it was Joe Gorbet. Joe Gorbet is the one who we were riding around with it. And Joe Gorbet, you know, for a long time with his brother Wayne and stuff like that.
Right.
Very well, you know, New York.
Very popular cats, man. Great musicians.
So I didn't realize that Joe Gorbet was a DJ as well out in New York. So
yeah, he is. That's right. I forgot he was. Yeah, he is a DJ.
So he was a DJ, but he was saying, oh yeah, and then his brother as well, you know, like,
yeah, wow.
I was just amazed. But when we were talking, and he was telling me that I guess that you guys kind of work up, because I guess they would book you and Johnny together a lot of times in these gigs and stuff like that. They would have you. So that was what he was telling me, and I go, oh really? Oh, I didn't realize that's what. So I guess Johnny is the singer, and then you doing all your father stuff.
I would come in as a special invited guest artist, which I have no problem doing. I love that. And it works better. I think that's how I first started at Alhambra Palace, is that you had, I think Lefty was singing, and then I came in and sang and played a couple of Puente songs, and I think we started it off like that. And then I started getting my repertoire, and I got more music, and that's how I did my own concerts. But yeah, that's how I started it out at first. I started just doing those 2 hit songs. Those are the ones that got me in the door. And there you go. And then I started playing all the other great hits of Puente. So very cool.
Good. Well, any last words you want to say to the customer, you know, to the people that are out there?
Oh, man. Déjame saludar a Ángel Ortiz. Let me see who else is out there. There's a lot of people that are just online on Facebook. I see we're live on Facebook. Laura, how are you, Pedro? Saludo para mi gente de Bronx en Nueva York. Saludo para mi gente de Puerto Rico. Humberto, how are you, brother? Andrés Burgos, man. That's my brother, too. Y Frankie Figueroa, la cantante de Tito Puente. Frankie Figueroa sang with my father for many, many years, so he's online too. Yeah. And of course, my brother Jose Fajardo Jr., Nancy Torres, Wilmer Ciportes. Wilmer's out there in the UK. He's my musical director from London. So I'd like to say hello to him too. Wow. Yeah, man. We were supposed to have a concert. I was supposed to be in Germany with him last month, and that, of course, that didn't work out. And again, I want to thank each and every one of the fans out there. Tommy T, Carlos, I see you guys too. And of course, Rodi More, the grandson of the great Benny More. That's my brother too. Wow. So saludo para él. If you guys want to follow me, just follow me on Facebook, man. I got a Facebook page. I'm sharing this right now, and I'm doing plenty of concerts coming up soon. Hopefully it'll all clear out by August, and we can have a great show for you, Angelo, out there at the Alhambra Palace. One of the best nights, guys. Come on out. They do it every August. It's a beautiful white party. Everybody dresses all in white, and salsa dura all night long. It's fantastic, and I really enjoy doing it every year. This will be our 8th annual. And if you guys want to follow me on Instagram as well, I'm at Tito Puente Jr. on Twitter. I'm doing a little TikToks with my kids too. And I just want to give a big shout out to you, Angelo, you and your family. Please stay safe. God bless you. And a big, big, big happy 21st birthday, bro. Times 2. No, times 3. I'm not going to say how old you are, man.
No, everybody knows that. You know what? I'm 56 years young. That's what.
Oh, man, you look fantastic, brother.
Thank you. You know, it's the music. It's the music. It's the music.
It's the music, man. Keeps you young. You look fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna start thinking about my 50th birthday in Chicago, and you're gonna be the man to do it for me. We'll do a big party next year. 2021 will be our year.
Absolutely.
Happy
right,
birthday again, Angelo.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
that is the Front Door Show. Thank you, Tito. And everybody that joined in. Rosita just joined in. Thank you very much. Everybody.
Bye. Get you.
Thank you.